Good afternoon. There are ghosts in Chapel Hill, in its streets and alleyways, in its churches and communities, in this very building. There are ghosts in my classroom. Shocking to hear, I know, given that I teach in a beautiful new school building, but I assure you, they're there. My ghosts live just beyond the back row of my students. They stand sentinel every day as I, as a humanities teacher, attempt to tell their stories, analyze their legacies, and work with my students to build their own. They are a varied and diverse group of spirits with a myriad of experiences and expectations, but all with a shared goal: to have their truths told and their experiences and existence remembered. Some of the ghosts are historical heavy hitters and bastions of the canon with legendary legacies that are easy to laud, like Dr. King. Some are far more controversial figures whose stories are anything but laudable, but must be told. Some are unnamed and unknown to most, but their experiences are at the very foundation of our society. Some are fictional, some are mythical, but their daily impact in my classroom and in our community is very real. My ghosts praise and extol me when I get it right, when their stories are told with honesty and nuance. They slump in hurt and disappointment when I fail to acknowledge them on those days when my agenda beats out my purpose. Sometimes the ghosts leave the back of the room. They follow me home and they rest just behind my eyelids so I see them when I sleep. Sometimes they get angry with my avoidance on those days when a worksheet seems so much simpler than a complex conversation about a difficult or troubling historical truth, or an examination of a complex current social justice crisis that has a plethora of perspectives. On those days, the ghosts join me at the lectern. They enter the center of my chest and they create this tightness that forces me to speak their truths, to say their names, to confront the social and institutional ills and realities that shaped their lives and in many cases caused their deaths. Sometimes they press their hands against my back in encouragement and prodding when I feel inept to articulate their complexities, their contradictions and conflicts, much less empower my students to confront and combat those issues in a contemporary society. And yet, the attempt, no matter how intimidating, must always be made, because I do not teach for myself. Although I choose the pedagogies, they, through their very existence, have already written the lesson plans. While many in our society are debating the very definitions of truth, literature, cultural relevance, we, as teachers and public servants, need no such debate to drive our work. We inherently understand how events and people from across time and place directly shape our current world, and how seemingly immortal and eternal systems of oppression and struggle constantly reinvent, reveal, and reestablish themselves in contemporary life. Yes, we must all meet our tangible goals. You must carry out the business of our town, and I must guide my students in the study of English language arts. But while our destinations may be dictated by others, we all retain agency in how those destinations are reached. While my students must learn to command compound, complex sentences, they will do so conscientiously, writing elegies for marginalized and exploited women who choose education over marriage and pay dire cost. They will learn to master relative and essential clauses, but they will do so in editorials, imploring civic and political action over the issues vital to our community, like school safety and environmental responsibility. I must help them reach proficiency in the skills of research, but only as we investigate essential questions, like how a society of philosophers and intellectuals allowed over 6 million people to perish due to hatred and bigotry, and how that same anti-Semitism that drove that atrocity is attempting to rear its ugly head in our modern world. I firmly believe that what you learn and who you learn from directly influence what you believe is worth learning and who you believe you can learn from. Patterns create norms, and experiencing and appreciating diverse experiences, perspectives, and insights is critical for all people who wish to succeed in an ever-diversifying world. We should, of course, take pleasure in the joys of our work whenever possible, in the amazing power of community building and public service, the accomplishment and celebrations, the shared laughter and jokes that familiarity and community builds. But those jokes, that laughter, must exist in a space that gives equal attention and focus to the fears and the struggles of the society in which they are told. This is what the ghosts demand. This is what my students and all citizens within our town require. It's no less than they both deserve. It is in this delicate balance of truth-telling and solution-seeking that we can love and support others and hold them accountable to their human responsibility. This is how I can give acknowledgement to and honor to the ghosts in my room, but not be overtaken. I can give them the channel of my voice, and in doing so, help my students find their own. I'll be honest and admit, I didn't always see the ghost. I didn't fully understand how knowledge can broaden the depth and breadth and acuity of one's vision, but I do now. Through years of meaningful personal and professional development, through continued education and collaboration with incredibly knowledgeable colleagues, and the gift of teaching students and working with peers from a wide range of cultural, religious, social, and ethnic backgrounds, my vision of the world and my understanding of my place and responsibility in it as a public servant has grown in exponential ways. Dr. King once wrote, "Nothing in all the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity." Dr. King understood that knowledge inherently creates responsibility, a responsibility to act in accordance to the demands of that knowledge, to reflect, to reckon with, to reconcile, to aid, to liberate, to advocate, to empower, to console, to sympathize, to be humbled by, to be overcome and overwhelmed, to be stunned, to be shamed, to be changed. Whether trivial or profound, when confronted with the truth, you can never unknow it. You can only choose to act upon it or ignore it. As public servants, we are uniquely positioned to guide others toward the pursuit of knowledge, even as they observe that the path of ignorance seems easier, more populated, and full of easy answers to complex problems. One of the best ways we can guide ourselves and others toward knowledge is through our personal modeling of continued intellectual enrichment and personal vulnerability, acknowledging the things we do not know, and taking the time to listen to those who do. Joining our community in a collective interrogation of meaningful, albeit complex, and at times intimidating ideas and events. How can I, as an educator, ask my students to rise to academic or moral challenges if I myself attempt to operate from a place of intellectual or ethical avoidance? How can I ask or expect anybody to move from bystander to upstander if I myself hide from inconvenient or unsettling truths? I cannot. And so we must all find a way to make peace with their demands and our own peace of mind. We must create for ourselves a bearable balance of truth-telling and joy-seeking, of inspiring social action and nurturing social optimism and wonder. We must find a way to be a medium for the ghost in our room, rather than a sacrifice. We must acknowledge the weight of knowledge, but it need not be a solitary or debilitating burden. The yoke of knowledge was never meant to be borne alone. It is instead a shared duty of every soul who lives and learns and thrives in our community. With this understanding, the goal then shifts from exorcism to equilibrium. The ghosts are no longer specters full of criticism or censure demanding justice, but rather they become hallowed saints who sit in peaceful observation as their stories and struggles are told and explored. I teach in the humanities because I believe that through education and service, the past does not have to be prologue. I believe that public service holds a similar power. People can be educated and empowered to build a better, more just world and community. However, this transition is not a passive inevitability. As Dr. King also noted, change does not roll in on the wheels of inevitability, but comes through continuous struggle. It must be an intentional agenda that allows and urges people to move from simply acquiring knowledge or acknowledging difficult truths to acting upon them. Celebrations like today are one small example of such an intentional opportunity to grow our knowledge and expand our vision of what our community can be and how we can embrace and celebrate our collective truths. I hope we all lean in and find some new nugget of knowledge in our observation of Dr. King's holiday this year that we can all bring back to our offices, our citizens, and yes, even our ghosts. Thank you all for the gift of your time and attention.